So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast in the preview podcast for Middlesbrough versus Aston in the FA Cup. And it's funny, Paddy, because it's a competition that I love the FA Cup. I always have as a kid, and especially third round and the giant killings that you see happen, and oftentimes happen to Aston Villa, unfortunately. But I love the allure of the. I'm a sucker for the allure of the FA Cup. But I will be honest with you, Paddy, it's kind of crept up in me this year, and I know it happens the same weekend every single year. But it's kind of crept up on me this year. And it's because there's just been so much else going on with the club, which is a fantastic complaint to have.
Yeah, and some of the best memories I have of going to Villa Park is for FA Cup games, and like that Leeds game where we won 3-2, beating Everton at Goodison Park, beating Bolton in the semi-final at Wembley, playing Chelsea at Wembley, then beating Liverpool a few years ago at Wembley in the semi-final, losing to Arsenal. So we're like Newcastle, we're long overdue one of these trophies to land, and who knows, maybe it's this year. I don't feel it's our number one objective this year is to win the FA Cup, but by God, if we got a run in it, we certainly wouldn't turn our nose up at it for sure. I think if you ask anybody to pick between that and the Conference League, I think definitely those that remember what a big day an FA Cup final is would definitely pick an FA Cup win over the Conference League. So, that's just my tuppence worth. I feel that the league haven't, or the FA haven't done the FA Cup any favours in recent years. Playing other matches on the day of the FA Cup final, moving it to a 5:30 kickoff. All of these things that just messed around. And I suppose it started back in 2000 when we actually ironically got to the final when Man United were made pull out because they went and played at the World Club finals and missed the third round, and as a result had to pull out. It's a pity they didn't pull out a few other third rounds because they tend to bloody beat us every year in the third round. Yeah, look, we don't have them this year, thank God. And I suppose we thought we had a handy one last year in getting Stevenage. I don't imagine he's going to want to slip up like that this year. But then again, I do believe it's further down the pecking order of his objectives for the season. So who knows? Yeah,
it's I think it's a funny one, Paddy. You win the Conference League and it gets you into the Europa League. It gets you into the Europa League. You win the FA Cup, gets you into the Europa League. So both of them realistically have the exact same objective at the end of them, and it's a testament to the FA Cup that it's probably harder to win the FA Cup. And that isn't me saying that we're HMS pissed the league for the Conference League either, but it's like the FA Cup. It's just because you will come up against one of the top 4 teams, top 6 teams. At some stage, realistically,
you
want to take it seriously.
Yeah, and we've lost a game already in the Conference League. We could lose other games and still go through on the obviously it's the home and away legs now, so we could still go through losing games. So there's no argument there. A knockout straight competition is very, very hard to win, and as you say, the so-called bigger teams and the seeded teams that come into it make it a lot harder than a Conference League is for sure. But nice trip on Saturday. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy that the game is at 5:30, having to get all the way up to Middlesbrough. If they're coming back down, if they're coming all the way back down from Middlesbrough on Saturday night and the result isn't great, then that's a right pain in the ass. But hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, I suppose realistically, a lot of the conversation is going to be around what team is Unai Emery going to put out. Is he going to rest players? And I've juggled back and forth. In this one. He's going to rest some players, but he's not. It's going to be like a Conference League team, I think. And And the reason I say that is, number one, we can't rest 11 players. That's number one. And number two, we don't have a lot of games in the month of January. We've only 3 games in a 30-day period, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, we have this game, and then, what is it, Everton, and then we're off for, I think we're off for a week then. Or there's a week break.
The next round of the FA Cup, I hope.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But there's like as I say, it's not a huge workload for the month of January. So I think he'll play. I think Louise McGinn could be playing. I think Bailey will play. I think Diego Carlos will be in there. I think I think our back four will be our back four, and I can't see him putting Philip Marshall in goals.
Will we save this elephant in the room until later on, or do you want to do it now?
Well, Finn Azaz hasn't signed for Middlesbrough yet, so
Well, maybe he means he's putting the rent money on him scoring for us.
Scoring for us. Yeah. Well, as far as I know, he hasn't signed yet, and he would have to sign before midday tomorrow, I think, to be eligible.
Yeah, and look, it would be absolute madness to be selling somebody to Middlesbrough is going to play against us on Saturday. It's just not going to happen. He was brought back from Plymouth Argyle for fear of injury and fear of losing the transfer money that will subsequently come off that. But there's no way that that transfer has been done before the weekend.
Yeah, I no, and look, I don't. We're not in any hurry to get rid of him, but we were in a hurry to get him back, so he didn't get injured. So you're right.
That's the only reason. Injured and cup tied, which is important too. So, if we were to lose the game, it would be important.
Yeah, Plymouth are playing Sutton. Am I right in playing? I think they're playing. They've got a. They're playing it's not always been the case, Paddy, where championship teams got, well, maybe it has. Has it always been the case where championship teams got in the third round?
I think so, yeah.
You're right, actually. It is.
We never played before Christmas. Definitely was always the fourth.
It's the League Cup I'm getting confused with. I've had a long day, everybody. I might get Paddy's name wrong even in this podcast later on. So if I do make any gaffes, I'm going to just apologize for him now. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Make it easier. Because I think with the team, I think he's going to go with a pretty strong team. I think Jacob Ramsey plays. I think probably Dendoncker comes into the team. As long as he doesn't dilly-dally with the ball in the edge of our area, I'm absolutely fine. We thought against Stevenage last year that he would completely change the whole team. But there was still a couple of names that were in there that he played. And I think he's going to respect Middlesbrough for what they are. And I mean that, but I don't mean to denigrate Middlesbrough for saying what they are, but they're a team in the championship that are on the up. They are searching for promotion to the Premier League. And it was funny, Paddy, because we were talking about it beforehand, and we looked down through their team. They're a young team. They're not a team. They're a team. There isn't a whole pile of players in there that you look at and you go, oh yeah, I know him. Oh yeah, I know him. Like Paddy McNair is out injured. Darren Lenihan is out injured. And then it's Johnny Howson. And after that, you're kind of going, right.
Yeah, and then you say he's a young team, and then you mention a 35-year-old.
That's it. Yeah,
every team needs someone like that in there. The only players that are available that I knew were Johnny Howson and Graham Kavanagh's son Callum. So other than that, I'm really struggling on this one to have any valid conversation about Middlesbrough, other than they've had a mediocre season. They're sitting in the mid-table, and they're gonna probably buy a fairly decent player in Finn Azaz, who's been brilliant for Plymouth Argyle and tearing it up in the championship since he got up there. Scored another great goal at the weekend. You would imagine, and people tend to forget how old he is. So this is not a youngster. This is not a youngster we're talking about here. But you would imagine there will be a buyback clause in there if that is the case. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be ruling them out either, because as we know from looking at what Sheffield United did to us, what lots of teams have done to us, they frustrated us. Middlesbrough could very well do the same thing. They play with that double pivot as well. They shore up the midfield. It's going to be hard to play through them. But you'd have to think, even with leaving out players that are vital to us for the following week, that we will still have enough to go and beat them. I won't say comfortably, because it's a cup tie and anything is possible. But you'd like to think that, like, we saw pictures of John McGinn in the airport straight after the game the other day. Did I see Luca Dean was in Disneyland with his kids, although he's injured, so it doesn't really.
They got 3 days off, I think, after the game the last day.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them got some downtime and badly needed downtime, I think. But I think we saw them all on the training pitch in the photos. One thing I'm hoping that will happen in the next few days is that Boubacar Kamara's wife has her baby, that he can have his rest this weekend and be back in time for Everton, or else she holds on until after the Everton game and he can have his 2 weeks off then and be ready for the game against Newcastle. But yeah, I jest, but on one hand I'm jesting, but I'm not really, because he's pivotal for us to be coming back in for those big games.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have missed him, and I think if Unai Emery was given a blank canvas to go looking for people in this January transfer window, I think he'd like to bring in an understudy in there. I think he would, an understudy for, it's mad, isn't it, having an understudy for a 22-year-old player or 23-year-old player, but to have an understudy for him there, somebody who could do a more like-for-like job for him, because just how much he just frees up. And I know, like, Dendoncker does a job in there, but it's not the same job. He's just not as mobile. He doesn't get around the place as much, and he certainly doesn't filter. I find Dendoncker a strange one, because he doesn't filter into the back three to make it a back, into the back two to make it a back three when the fullbacks go forward as much as Kamara does. And we know how much that works with Kamara. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. And if maybe somebody does come through the door, or maybe if he's grooming somebody like a young Tim. Which I think the ship has sailed in him being a 6. I think he's going to be an 8 in future, or maybe in a Jacob Ramsey type position, considering that's where he was a QPR. But then again, that was under Mick Beale, who, as we say, was what he was when he was out in management in his own. And that's talking about other managers or other assistants that we've had. There's another assistant going to be very familiar with a lot of these players, and certainly familiar with the Villa crest as well. Aaron Danks is the first team coach here at Middlesbrough this year. They've got a really good coaching ticket when you think of it. They've got Michael Carrick as head coach, Jonathan Woodgate in there as assistant, and Aaron Danks in there with Alan Fettis, also a Premier League goalkeeper with lots of experience in there as well. So they've got a pretty decent backroom team there. And if you had 20 years ago, if you had said to me that Jonathan Woodgate would be involved in coaching teams and wouldn't be the head coach and would leave his ego at the door and be an assistant, I would have laughed you out of the room. But fair play to him. He seems to just love that club so much, So I find that quite endearing, the fact that he's kind of matured with age, as the years have gone on. But this is a growing team, Middlesbrough. You mentioned that they're in the middle of the table, but it is because they've, you look at their team, there are some of their parts. Again, they've got very young players up top, in the likes of Coburn, the likes of Jones. What's the other guy's name? That plays in the middle, Rogers. They're younger players, but they're sharing the goals around them up there as well. And I think that they will go with a pretty decent team here, because they will want to put on a show at the Riverside. And I think that they'd like to have the scalp. And that's where we are at the moment. We are a scalp for championship teams now, whereas before we might have been a scalp for League 1, League 2 teams. Now we'll be a scalp for championship teams, because we're in the top 2 in the Premier League.
Well, we're a scalp for Premier League teams at the moment. So, that's going out the window. Somebody has just mentioned there that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has got a straight red. Does that mean he's suspended for our game? I hope so. It's a straight red there today. So we've obviously just missed it since we've been on air. They're 0-0 with Crystal Palace. I think what needs to happen here is that goes to extra time and they pick up a few little niggles along the way, and we'll be very happy. I don't know if it crosses over. I assume it does. I assume it goes, because you can't be suspended for 3 FA Cup games, because it could take you 3 years to play them. So it would make sense that it would go into the league games as well. But look, that's for next week.
If a player is red carded in an FA Cup tie, that carries over to the Premier League or whatever domestic competition immediately follows their sending off. Aston Villa's Leander Dendoncker was the only Premier League player to receive his marching orders in the FA Cup third round in 2023. I just Googled it and that's what popped up there. It was the one paragraph. It was like as if it knew it needed to speak to me with the Dendoncker thing.
I don't remember him being sent off.
Sent off against Stevenage.
I don't remember that.
Give away the penalty.
I don't remember him being sent off. Anyway, there you go.
We dilly-dallied at the edge of the area.
I remember him giving it away, yeah, but I don't remember him being sent off. Anyhow.
Well, that is from onefootball.com.
Okay.
So what was I going to say to you there as well, Paddy? Yeah, so I suppose with our own team, I'm not going to second guess what Unai Emery is going to go out with. It'll be interesting. I think there's a couple of subplots though, Paddy. There's a couple of subplots. Like I would love to see young Tim get a decent run here in this game. I would love to see. I'm trying to think any other younger players there. Like we don't have the likes of Omari Kenneman. I wonder with somebody like Caden Young being around the team on the bench this year for this game. The big one, Paddy, and the one that I'm kind of holding off talking about is it'll be really interesting. And I say he will play him, but like there's just been a lot of chatter about John Duran potentially being on the way out. Now, a lot of the conversation is going out to teams out foreign, if you want to call it, from the UK. So but it'd be interesting to see if he plays.
Yeah, being cup tied wouldn't be a huge deal if that's the case.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, it's definitely an opportunity where we're going to see the likes of Zaniolo start. I think young Tim starts. We could see Callum Chambers start. We even could see a change in goal with Philip Marshall coming in because he seems to have a lot of faith in him. Yeah, Ireland's
own Tommy O'Reilly, apparently. It's funny how that's caught on. That's caught on now about O'Reilly. Yeah.
Yeah, so look, there's a lot of things he could do here, and Teddy Rowe, the guy that signed it, they sent him out on loan, didn't they? Kerr Smith,
yeah. We might see. I doubt we're going to see people like Josh Feeney and those types. I think Tielemans is back. I would imagine he's back because we know that he travelled with the squad to Burnley.
Yeah,
or he was with the squad. For Burnley.
He was with the squad. Yeah.
He was with the squad.
So, well, look, we'll wait and see what happens in the presser tomorrow and see what he's got to say. It should be an interesting press conference if the good questions are asked. But I'm expecting changes. The long and the short of it is, I do believe there will be changes. To what extent, I don't know. I really don't think he wants another third round exit to a lower league team on his watch for twice in the space of a year. So I'm sure the Stevenage one does haunt him, and he won't want to see that again.
I'm just looking at the lineups here, Paddy. He didn't seem to come on there, did he? I'm just checking Lamar Bogart. Now, it's unlikely that we see him. Maybe like stranger things have happened. So, yeah, he did. He played in the first round. He played in the first round against Whitby Town. So, he out. He's cup tied.
He's cup tied. Yeah.
He's cup tied.
Declan makes a point here, and no matter what way you look at it, whether you believe it's right or wrong, did we get Europe last year without the Stevenage loss? Extra game, small squad would have counted against us. Without hoping for a Villa loss, I think an FA Cup run would impact negatively on us. Look, all valid. You make a great point, but it just depends where the priorities lie. I just don't believe he's going to make enough changes for that to happen this weekend. I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, and like my biggest thing is he can't make too many changes because specifically in the forward area, but specifically anywhere, you can't make too many changes.
No,
really.
We are light at the moment.
Traore is fit again. And he's gone off for Burkina Faso to AFCON, which is fine. I would look. I suppose it's okay to say it. I think he was probably out of here in January anyway.
I don't think it's the last time you'll be saying goodbye to Bertie this month. just my opinion, no inside knowledge on that. I think he'd be one of the list that would be available to ship out this month. So I don't believe he would have been included if that was the case, if they hope to let him go. So Courtney House to start. I don't think he's registered as a player. I don't know whether that carries over to the FA Cup or not, but I don't think he's registered as a player. That could change. Maybe it could change on the 1st of January. I don't know.
No, sure, they can, because he was our player. We can register him, just like if, let's just say, Finn Azaz signs, he can register with Middlesbrough before 12 tomorrow. So I would imagine, because we don't, I don't think that we have the full quota for the Premier League. I'd have to look into it, because you can only name a certain amount of people. But he's an interesting one. Like, don't expect him to play. Maybe he's on the bench. Who knows? Like, he's just come back after almost 2 years out of not barely kicking a ball. But yes, raise a glass or raise a ceramic cup for Courtney House, because as I said, for any of you who've been watching the podcast since day one, you'll know that I plowed a lonely furrow there for about 4-game period when Tyrone Mings was out, and I was the conductor of the Courtney House fan appreciation bus. And then he banged one in against Man United, wasn't it? And was I the Cheshire Cat on that podcast? Let me tell you. But it'll be interesting. As I say, it's an interesting one just to see what he does. Does he name 4 goalkeepers on the bench? Who knows? I'm not 100% sure. But I don't think there'll be wholesale changes to the squad. But as you said, I think Zaniolo is in there. I think Zaniolo probably starts in that role behind John Duran, probably up top, and then maybe you see Ramsey and Bailey, maybe then Donker in the middle of midfield with, maybe it's young Tim. Maybe he starts at McGinn and McGinn comes off and Tim comes in, and that back 4, I can't see there being huge changes there. Maybe just with the Konza has to play right back at this stage, unless you bring in Callum Chambers in there and Diego Carlos and Longley. Maybe you start. It keeps there won't be wholesale changes at all, I don't think. There'll still be a lot of familiar faces in there, and I think that's only right to give it the respect that it deserves. And Villa will be, as you said, I think Villa will be looking to go out and win this one, but it will be, and I think it would be nice to win this one, because we haven't won the 3rd round in like 8 years, so it's something that we need to rectify.
And the last time we won the 3rd round match, we got to the final.
Exactly, we got to the final for sure. Ethan Woodhouse asks, is there any transfer news? I'm glad you should ask that, Ethan, because everybody stay here, because directly after this I have a pre-recorded podcast that I was going to put out earlier today and I completely forgot to do it. So yes, I'm still wearing the same hoodie in the pre-recorded podcast, but rest assured it's pre-recorded. On Jeremy Frimpong. Paddy won't be here for it, but it's on Jeremy Frimpong, just a scouting series on him. But just on the transfer side of things, it's going to be an interesting January. I think they'll only pounce for the right players, but are the players that they want. And as I've always said, I think there will be players bought that fans will be going, oh, fuck's sake, what do we buy him for? Like, I did a scouting series on Cyril Ngonga as well, where it seems like we've had a bid, we've put in a bid, and that there's a to and fro with regards to that one. I've been speaking to somebody who's involved in Italian media, and they said that he prefers Fiorentina. He prefers Fiorentina over Aston Villa is not particularly true. Don't know how much how that factors in, but like somebody like that might be someone who might come in. But I think outgoings would be probably what we would keep an eye on as well.
I think it was what we've got to watch is if the likes of a Bertie T goes out, if the likes of a Callum Chambers goes out, that's when you'll start to see them come in. I think people need to go out to make room, and that's the position we're at. So if you start to see the likes of Finn Azaz being sold this weekend, and then something else happening after that, that's when we'll start to see them come in, I would imagine.
Yeah, and like as I said, we can't sell too many either because of our threadbare squad. So I think we will get 1 or 2 players in. I think 3 players max. I think right back, midfielder. I think a midfield utility player. I have my eye on somebody who we've been linked to previously. They can play midfield, left back, and right back. And I'll be pushing something out in that in the coming days as well. But I think we'll go for those two positions, and then an attacker, maybe somebody who can play in versatile positions up top as well. And I wouldn't get too bogged down on whether they play from the right or play from the left, because at the moment we've got a lot of players that can be interchangeable in that area there. I think it's more like somebody that they're going to buy that they can maybe mould to come in behind Ollie Watkins, and they're more of an Ollie Watkins type player than John Duran is, because John Duran is a different type of player. And whether he stays or whether he goes, I think has no bearing on whether we bring in another attacker. But look, as I say, that's all to be written. But stay here directly after this. You will be thrown straight into Jeremy Frimpong video as well. It's only 17 minutes long. But if you do wish to watch it, it will be on directly after this. And I think with that, Paddy, we're probably going to start to wrap up the podcast. It's coming up to 10 o'clock here, but any final thoughts on this game at the weekend?
No, as I said, I don't really have any opinion on them, seeing as I haven't seen them play this season. Well organised, but very, very toothless in attack seems to be what I can get from it. And we got to hope that that's the same situation at the weekend. Their focus is surely getting further up that league before they get to playoff situation. Whether they have enough to get there, I don't know, but they'll sure do their damnedest if they're bringing in the likes of Finn Azaz. You think that they've got desires of getting further up the league. Yeah, absolutely. That will probably be their focus.
I think so too. And with that, we're going to end the podcast, everybody. So thanks a million for watching and listening. We'll be back with team sheet tantrums and post matches and stuff for the game at the weekend. But we're going to throw you directly into a Jeremy Frimpong podcast now. If you guys want to stay exactly where you are. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.